Om Ajnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namoshtite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So it's very important to first of all offer our respects with this Mangalarchana prayers, with the Guru. It's so important to get all the mercy of the previous acharyas, because without their mercy we're nothing, we're lost. Srila Prabhupada has given us such a wonderful process of Krishna consciousness that's so complete, perfectly and complete. All we have to do is follow that process. Stay within the association of devotees, follow that process, and you know what? We are assured success. No matter what our past conditioning, no matter what our difficulties we might have been through, and we will go on going through in life with its ups and downs and turmoils. But if we just stay strong in the process and beg for the mercy of the previous acharyas, we'll be all right, we'll be safe. And we have sincere, deep gratitude to Srila Prabhupada, who's given us this very complete process to follow. I'm just jumping straight in there, but just the whole program that he's given us in the temple, from Mangalarti, the prayers we sing to our spiritual master, the prayers we sing glorifying Radha and Krishna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Tulsi Puja, all these things are so important. And if we look at the meaning of those words that we're singing, it's not just, but they're all prayers, they're all beautiful prayers. And as we advance in Krishna consciousness, if we understand more, get to understand more of the prayers that we're singing, and then we can sing from our heart, and then this way the heart will become more and more purified, and we can make advancement on the path. Hare Krishna. So I'd just like to say thank you very much, Kamala Devidasi, who I've only met on this trip to Vrindavan. She works for the Community Services Department, and she asked me if I would speak a few words to the Vaishnavi Sanga, and I'm very happy to meet all of you here. I feel very blessed to be here in the holy land of Vrindavan, in the holy Dham. Although I've been involved in Krishna consciousness a good many years, I actually joined in 1976, so I met Srila Prabhupada on 2 occasions. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Although I've been around Krishna consciousness a long time, I haven't been many times to Vrindavan, and this is definitely the longest period I've ever spent here. I've been here over a month. I stayed for the whole of Kartik, so it's been quite an experience. A chance to go on different parikrams, meet lots of different devotees, and just absorb myself as much as I can in the being here in the Holy Dham, taking advantage of this holy space. So I'm sure we all have different stories. A few of you ladies I've met during my stay here, and some of you are staying here for quite a long time and doing lots of service. Some of you I haven't come across, haven't met. I met you this morning. So we've all got different stories to tell, but we all have a common thread, we all have a common link. We've all had that, been blessed by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, and have that little bit of faith in which to put our attention, absorb our minds, absorb our hearts in this whole process of Krishna consciousness. So we have this common link here. Hare Krishna. So Kamala asked me if I would kindly speak today. A lot of times, because I'm a disciple of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, first thing that people ask me is, oh, tell us some pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, we want to know about pastimes of Srila Prabhupada. But of course, understanding that I only joined in 1976, I didn't see Srila Prabhupada very much. I was actually travelling at the time. I was already married, myself and my husband, and we were seekers of the truth. We were looking for some answers to the questions in life, and that had taken us on a trip to India. We'd come to India looking for a spiritual master, and we travelled around India quite a lot, but unfortunately we felt a little bit disappointed during that trip. And so we went on a boat, a ship, from Madras to Malaysia. My husband, he was from Malaysia, born and brought up in Malaysia. I've met him in England. And we were doing this trip around India, looking for a spiritual master, looking for answers in life. And then we were going to go off to Malaysia to meet his family. So we got to the point of getting on the ship, going from Madras to Malaysia, and we thought, what are we looking for? Maybe what we're looking for is just, will-o'-the-wisp, pipe dream. Maybe we should just be like everybody else and settle down and get a job, and we just got married and have a family and all that. And then guess what? On the ship there were some devotees, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. They were going to go off to Malaysia. They were going to do a tour distributing books, and so we met them on the ship, and so we went up to them and spoke to them and asked them questions, as you do. And of course, to find someone eager to hear about Krishna consciousness, they were happy to speak to us. We had 3 days on the ship, so we had lots of time to ask lots of questions. Of course, we bought books from them, went back to our cabin, and we were reading these books. And I can honestly say, as soon as we read those, just a little bit from those books, we knew that this is what we've been looking for. This is the missing link. This is our spiritual master. We knew from those teachings, from reading that, seeing the author was A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, seeing he was a disciple of these devotees we'd met, we knew that this was what we've been looking for. So we were very excited. We'd already become vegetarians when we were in England, on our spiritual seeking. But there was still a few more bad habits we had to give up. Onion and garlic, what to speak of anything else, So having read the book and spoken to the devotees, that's it, we're going to be devotees now, So we went to Malaysia, lived with his family for a short while, avidly read those books, and again, felt very deep within our heart that this is our spiritual master, and we wanted to meet him, we wanted to be associated again with more devotees. So no devotees, no temples in Malaysia at that time. And we wrote to a few temples, we wrote to India, we wrote, because Mayapur, we had one of the books we bought from them, was a BTG magazine. In the BTG, all the temples around the world. So we wrote to a few temples. And Indonesia, we wrote to England and Mayapur. I think it was Mayapur, yeah, the headquarters. but we didn't receive any reply, or except, did we receive a reply from England? I think we did, from England, and of course we were from England. So after a few months of staying there, no association, trying our best to practice Krishna consciousness, we decided to go back to England. So we went back to England, and within a short time we joined at the Bhaktivedanta Manor. I don't know if any of you have ever visited that temple. You've been there? You've been there? Okay. Nice temple, beautiful temple. We have two big temples in London. The one in the city centre is called, is a Soho Street temple, Radha Londonishwara, you might have seen. Very, very beautiful deities. Very nice, small temple, but very concentrated devotion there. Good team of devotees going out daily, distributing books, well organised. They have a restaurant on the ground floor, which is very popular, been going for many years. Then they have the temple on the first floor, beautiful Radha Madhava deities. It's about the size of this room, actually.
Little bigger. Little bigger.
I don't think so.
Maybe the altars is like...
Yeah, but it's not much bigger. It's right. Bhaktivedanta Manor, of course, is bigger, but Radha Londonishwara, central London, you've been there as well. This lady in the black. Yeah, but it's very ornately decorated, very beautifully decorated out, and they have lots of preaching programs there, so a very successful centre. But I actually joined at the Bhaktivedanta Manor, which at that time was 17 acres. We had 17 acres of land, which had been donated by, anybody know who it's donated by? George Harrison, from the famous Beatles. So George Harrison, out of all the Beatles, he'd been the one that took to Krishna consciousness more seriously. But even John Lennon, I will say, when Srila Prabhupada first came to England, they stayed at John Lennon's estate, at Tittenhurst estate. And he gave them a devotee's place to stay, gave Srila Prabhupada a stay. So he's done some good devotional service as well. So I'll just say a little bit about John Lennon, very famous Beatle as well. Of course, we knew he was murdered, shot in New York. I think it was New York, when he was 43 or 48, 43 I think, so he wasn't very old. So Prabhupada had gone there to Tittenhurst. I'm moving around a bit, but that's okay, right?
Yes,
we can come right. So John Lennon, Srila Prabhupada, John Lennon had invited them to Tittenhurst. The early devotees had gone. I meant to say right at the beginning that, my name is Janaki Devidasi, and I just want to do a disclaimer that I'm not the original Janaki. I don't know if any of you, when you saw the poster saying Janaki speaking today, they might have got very excited that one of the early disciples of... Did you think that?
Yes.
Yes, I'm really sorry to disappoint you. That because just a handful of devotees came over from America in the very early days. Srila Prabhupada sent them over, 3 married couples, one with a young baby. I mean, we wouldn't think of that, would we, with our little baby going preaching in a foreign country and being the pioneers. So when they first came, those devotees first came to UK, then they had no place to stay. They'd stay a bit here and a bit there, and they were all separated. But then John Lennon let them come and stay in his estate. So he did some good service for the devotees, which will be eternally to his credit, So by that time, John Lennon was with Yoko Ono. Yeah. So the Beatles had already split up or nearly split up, maybe nearly split up then. Yeah, they weren't split up then, they were together. So they were both quite interested, but they weren't interested in the same way as George Harrison. George Harrison was much more submissive, much more... what's that verse in Bhagavad-Gita? This is our Pandit here, she will know. Tadvidi Pranipatina, Pariprashnena Sevaya, Upadekshyanti Te Jnanam Jnanastati. Just try to learn the truth by approaching the spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service to him. The self-realized soul will impart knowledge unto you because he's seen the truth. So George was much more submissive in his attitude to Srila Prabhupada and the devotees than was John Lennon. See, you have to forgive these elderly people, they get very forgetful. So, John Lennon and Yoko, they were a bit more challenging. So they weren't ready to just accept what Srila Prabhupada said. And they didn't want to surrender, basically. They weren't ready to surrender. But George, he did. So after some time, George Harrison donated the Bhaktivedanta Mana. I mean, there's a really beautiful story about that as well. I think I'll just tell you that story, if that's okay. It's about, Srila Prabhupada had asked, was it Brahmananda or was it Satswarup? Please forgive me, Brahmananda and Satswarup, and if I've got this wrong. I think it was Brahmananda. Anyway, I'd asked Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada had asked them to go and ask George Harrison to donate. Now, they'd been cultivating George for quite a long time, but they didn't want to kind of keep asking him for money. These were, rich pop stars, got loads of money and all that, lots of fans, but everybody wants to take from them. So they didn't want to be a taker from George Harrison, but they wanted to give something solid, Krishna consciousness. They wanted to cultivate that in him, which they did very well. Shama Sundar especially was very close with him right to the end. When George Harrison left his body, he remained close, he would keep in touch. Mukunda Maharaj as well. So one of the devotees, anyway, went to an evening at George Harrison's house. He'd invited the devotees over. And and the devotee was trying to pluck up courage to ask for a donation. Because he didn't want to ask George, he didn't want to blow him out, he didn't want him to think, we're just another one after his money, sort of thing. But Prabhupada had said to him, you go there and ask him. Prabhupada has given instructions, so he kind of followed that instruction. Anyway, the evening came, they were having their dinner, and then an opportunity came, and he asked, actually it was Shama Sundar, because it was Shama Sundar who told this story. So he asked, Srila Prabhupada has asked if you could donate for a building. We don't have anywhere to stay in England, and we need a centre. We need a centre. It went very silent. It went very quiet. George went very quiet. He didn't say a word. Then all of a sudden there was a thunderbolt, padam, and a lightning flashed, and all the lights in the house went out, like crash like that. And everybody was kind of shocked and stunned. Then the lights came on again, and George Harrison started laughing. He started laughing, he said, well, there can't be a clearer sign than that's what Krishna wants me to do. So his first reaction was, here they are asking me. But then the thunder and lightning came, and all the lights went out in the house. And then George Harrison could see that was the hand of Krishna saying, yes, you should do this thing. So George agreed to help the devotees find a property, and together with Dhananjaya, who is I think he's one of the first, if not the first,
President?
No. He was a president, but he was one of the first devotees to get initiated from England. Yeah, because all the others that came over were from America, obviously. So he worked with George Harrison, and they found this beautiful Tudor mansion house set in 17 acres, and George agreed to purchase this on behalf of the devotees. And so that's where I joined. I came there in 1970, I think that was 72 72 or 3. Of course, when the devotees first were there, they had no money, they had no means of income. There they were in this beautiful big old house with these 17 acres of grounds, but they had no money to maintain the place, really. Finances were very tight in those days. So by the time I joined 76, things had moved on, book distribution had picked up, devotees had started going out doing Harinam and book distribution. We were finding that funds were coming in, and not only that, people were joining. So when people read these books, it changes their life, it transforms them. And that's why we're always stressing in ISKCON, we're always stressing in all our temples, distribute books, because this is what changed people's heart and minds. Yeah, and for me that was a fact. People always ask, "Oh, what was the first time you met Srila Prabhupada?" The first time I met him was through his books. When I read his words, I felt that connection with Srila Prabhupada. So even though he's not physically present with us, we have his murti, but we don't have his physical presence. We still have his presence with us when we take note of his instructions, and when we read and study these books and share this and follow his instructions, following the programs in the temples, associating with devotees, cooperating together with devotees, then we get Srila Prabhupada's presence in there. And I think you can all experience that when we do Guru Puja to Srila Prabhupada. We can feel that presence with Srila Prabhupada. Okay. So I joined in 76. A lot of people were joining at that time, so the temple was booming. Lots of devotees were there at that time. And then in 76 we got the message, Srila Prabhupada's coming. So Prabhupada, as we know, travelled around the globe 12 times, round about 12 times, since he started the movement in the USA, and then he travelled around the world. And everywhere he went, he was always inspiring the devotees, encouraging the devotees, like that. So he was always travelling. Not only was travelling, but even while he was travelling, he'd always be doing his translation work as well. So he had an amazing schedule, and none of us could keep up with that schedule. I mean, I just turned 70 years old this year, so I know how my body feels now compared to how I was when I was young. I was 22 when I joined. You don't think about the body then. You don't realise you've got a body in many ways. And it's only when you get older and then the aches and pains come, or if you're unfortunate and you have some illness early on, then you have some difficulties. So to think, and it really struck me this year when I had my 70th birthday, to think that at this age, Srila Prabhupada left the comforts of Vrindavan Dham. He'd been studying and writing the purports, and preparing his books for the last few years in the Radha Damodar temple here in Vrindavan. We see his rooms, we can go and visit those rooms. I'm sure all of you have been there and paid your homage and respects at that fantastic, wonderful temple. So we can see the actual rooms where Srila Prabhupada lived, very simply. But he lived there very simply, but in deep focus and absorption on the mission of his own spiritual master. This is what kept Srila Prabhupada going. Right from the first days when he first met his spiritual master, he took the instruction of his spiritual master to his heart. And even though he didn't take initiation straight away, it was a few years before he took initiation, and he never actually joined full time in the ashram. He was a married man, he had a family, he had responsibilities, he had work to do. But it was only later on he took Vanaprastham, he came to Vrindavan. But even in his married life, in his grihastha life, he was always meditating on somehow or other, I must fulfill the instructions of my spiritual master. So think I lost my track there, didn't I? Okay, so Srila, I forgot what I was talking about.
You were saying how you joined in 1976.
Yeah.
And you didn't meet.
He traveled to US.
Oh yeah, he was travelling around. Srila Prabhupada was travelling. So we got the message, Srila Prabhupada is coming. Whoa! So everyone was very excited. Everyone's busy preparing the temple, cleaning everywhere thoroughly, repainting this, repairing that, making everything just so. Because Srila Prabhupada was very meticulous. He wanted everything clean. He wanted everything punctual. And he wanted everything done properly. There was no half measures, no doing anything, second class. He wanted everything first class. So everybody wanted to please Srila Prabhupada, so everybody was busy getting everything ready. Of course, because Srila Prabhupada was coming, the temples around Europe, when the devotees heard that he's travelling to UK, many devotees came as well. They also came, so our temple was bursting with devotees in 1976 when he came. So at that time, I was part of the ladies' Sankirtan party. We had a ladies' Sankirtan party that were going to central London every day, distributing books. And other paraphernalia as well we did. The main push behind it was books. Actually, we used to go out, we had flowers, we had roses, so I would stop people on the streets. I was a very shy person, very shy girl, I still am actually. So we had to approach people, and then we'd have a rose, and so we'd kind of reach out with a rose and somehow or other stop them and pin a rose onto them, ask them for a donation, and then we'd give them a book as well. So it was a little bit tricky, but it worked, and it brought in funds for the temple and also got out lots of books. So I was part of the Ladies Sankirtan party. When I first joined the temple, my first service was cleaning the Vyasasan of Srila Prabhupada, because they always had a beautiful Vyasasan there in the temple room. And then I moved on to cleaning the temple room, sweeping, mopping that every day. In between that, there's always kitchen services, so you get the temple commander coming around in the morning. Mataji, do you think you could go to the kitchen and help to peel some potatoes? Janananda Goswami, as is now. Some of you know him. He's an English devotee. I was a brahmachari at the time when I was there. He's now based in New Mayapur in Europe, in France. A temple that had a big heyday, a big temple, big chateau, big deities, but struggled from lack of devotees over the last few years. So Janananda Maharaj is kind of helping to bring that up and motivate the devotees there. Plus he travels around the world and he's initiating Guru now as well. So he was like the temple commander at the time, so he would come around and give us different services. So Vyasasan and cleaning the temple room, and then kitchen services and whatever else was needed. And then after a short while they'll ask me to go join the Ladies Sankirtan party. Yeah. So because I was in the Ladies Sankirtan party, I got a chance to go to the airport to meet and greet Srila Prabhupada. Because at that time we're in the temple, we're not independent. When you live in the ashram, you don't have your independence. It's different now to what it was in those days. When we joined the temple, whatever resources we had, we gave it to the temple. Whatever money we had, we gave to the temple. Whatever things we had, we just handed it over to the temple. You remember those days, right? And so we were very dependent on our temple president, temple commander. They were our authorities. What they said was as good as God. We followed that, and so on. So we got the good fortune of going to the airport, and not many devotees could do that. So I remember So this is my first meeting with Srila Prabhupada, and everybody wants to kind of know how that feels. So we were very excited already, and we were waiting, anxiously waiting at the airport for Srila Prabhupada to come through. And big kirtan was going on. I don't know if even they allow that now. Probably not. But they didn't even, never seen anything like it before in those early days. So the authorities didn't actually stop us, because I think we just took them by complete surprise. So big Harinam Kirtan going on by the, yeah, thanks. Thank you. By the arrivals, so we're waiting with Srila Prabhupada, everybody's chanting. There was about 20-25 devotees, I think. And we're waiting, it seemed like we were waiting for ages, forever. Then all of a sudden we saw the dandas of the sannyasis, because Srila Prabhupada was always, at that time, surrounded by the sannyasis with their dandas. And Srila Prabhupada was quite small in stature, he's not very tall, and the American devotees always seem like giants next to him. So first thing we see is the dandas and the saffron, and then suddenly in the middle of all that we see Srila Prabhupada glowing and shining and effulgent, and on seeing him everybody immediately dives onto the floor and pays our obeisances. You've all probably seen videos of Srila Prabhupada arriving at the airport, and you can imagine, it's good to watch those because we can enter into the mood of that and feel what it would feel like to receive Srila Prabhupada like that. And it was very, very strong emotions that we felt then. So we all paid obeisances, but quickly got up because we didn't want to miss a moment seeing Srila Prabhupada. But then all too soon he's kind of walking in front of us, and he's walking and he's gliding past. Many devotees have said it, Srila Prabhupada seemed to glide. He didn't seem to walk like an ordinary mortal. He seemed to glide along, and definitely had a special glow around him. Srila Prabhupada surrounded by all these saffron sannyasis, and like a scene from the spiritual world, like Lord Chaitanya's time, you know. And then he glides off. So then we rush off to get our vehicle and take us back to the manor. Of course, by the time we get back, Srila Prabhupada's already arrived. And this lady has, been to Srila Prabhupada, to Bhakti-Vedanta Manor, so you know that we have very beautiful rooms for him there, where Srila Prabhupada stayed when he was there. So there's a very nice sitting room, lounge, with, what do you call that, lattice work, iron lattice windows overlooking a lawn and a lake and trees. It's a very beautiful setting. So he has a big lounge there, and then as you enter the door in front of you, there's a small vyasasan, cushions, and in front of it like a sort of coffee table like this. And this is exactly what Srila Prabhupada would use when he was there. He didn't have a big high chair. It was kind of a low cushioned chair, and then a small sort of coffee table Srila Prabhupada would sit at. That was his desk. And the room is set up very much how when Srila Prabhupada was there. It's decorated in the same sort of way. And then next to that he has a bathroom, and next to that his bedroom. So if ever you get a chance to go to England, you please visit Bhakti-Vedanta Manor and go to see Srila Prabhupada's rooms, because the presence there is very strong of Srila Prabhupada. And for me, when I go into his rooms and I see we have a murti of Srila Prabhupada now sitting on those cushions in front of his desk, his table, and I can remember Srila Prabhupada sitting there in front of us, giving the address to the devotees. By that time he'd already started his address. So we came in late, so we kind of snuck in the door right at the end, and I sat right by the side of the door there, just squeezed my way in, just to get in. And then we're looking at Srila Prabhupada and hanging on his every word, and not only every word, but every movement, every tilt of the head and every hand gesture. Because when Srila Prabhupada talks, he's he has a lot of hand movements, a lot of gestures, and he's very aristocratic the way to. Anyway, devotees brought in after a little speech. Well, and then they brought him a big plate of fruits actually. So Srila Prabhupada's eating there, with his pinky, his little finger, he's very like that. So Srila Prabhupada's there. So that was my first meeting with Srila Prabhupada, and it was we felt very emotional when we were at the airport. I think most of us were sort of crying. There was a lot of tears. It's very overwhelming emotions. And when we read about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and how in the later years when he's living in Jagannath Puri and he's experiencing these different strong spiritual emotions. So I think we got a glimpse of what that must be like, the hairs on the body raising and the trembling of the body and then the tears in the eyes, very overwhelming emotions. So it was like that when we met Srila Prabhupada. But also, because of that, it makes it very difficult to speak to Srila Prabhupada. And a lot of devotees have experienced that. They feel like kind of shocked and stunned in his presence like that. And anyway. So we didn't get a chance as female bodies, young devotees. We didn't get a chance to go in and out of Srila Prabhupada's room. Just like that. We just didn't get that opportunity. He was very much protected by the sannyasis, the senior devotees. They're very much protective of him because he had, like I say, a very tight schedule that he kept. It would work very hard, Srila Prabhupada. So they always wanted to protect him and keep him safe. So we just carried on our services, and Srila Prabhupada stayed about a week. So we got to see him every day. He'd come down in the morning for greeting of the deities, and that was always a wonderful experience as well. Srila Prabhupada would come down the stairs, again flanked by his entourage of devotees, into the temple room and pay his obeisances in front of the deities, and he would look at the deities with such love in his eyes that we weren't looking at the deities at that time, we were looking at Srila Prabhupada looking at the deities. So that was, and then he would go and sit on the Vyasasan and he would give his lecture. When he would give his lecture, Srila Prabhupada would always look around the room. It's like he would scan the room, and it was like he kind of take everybody in, just like I'm looking around the room now and I see all your eager faces wanting to hear, drinking with your ears some nectar. We always wanted to get that nectar for which we're always anxious, as Lord Chaitanya points out. So it was like that with Srila Prabhupada was there. But all too soon he left and he went off on his travels. So that was in 76. And then we carry on with our services, and we feel satisfied because we're serving Srila Prabhupada's mission. Then in 77, Srila Prabhupada suddenly, unexpectedly, came again to visit UK. So we'd been hearing that Srila Prabhupada hadn't been well, his health had deteriorated, but somehow or other we always thought that Srila Prabhupada would stay forever, that he would always be with us. We were young, 22, and many younger than myself, right, late teens and early 20s. The whole yatra was young like that. So somehow we just felt that, Krishna, Yogeshwara, the master of all mystics, Srila Prabhupada's going to stay forever. Somehow we had that misconception. Anyway, so Srila Prabhupada, we heard the message that he's coming. We've been hearing some news that he wasn't well, but it's not like nowadays you've got your phones and we've got WhatsApp and messages and pictures galore. It wasn't like that then in the 70s. We didn't even have emails at that time. So you would like telephone, yeah, one telephone maybe two telephones in the temple, you know. So we weren't privy to pick up the phone. That was the temple president, you know. So, and everything else was by letter, you know, snail mail. So we didn't realise how ill Srila Prabhupada was at that time. So then when he arrived, he was driven to the manor, to the side door at the manor, and we were waiting there when the car arrived. And really to see Srila Prabhupada at that time, is very, very painful for us. Well, Srila Prabhupada, he was hale, he was hearty, he was strong, he was powerful. Just 1 year before, in 1976, but now he just looked very grave, very, very ill. He was very gaunt, his cheeks were very drawn in. He wore dark glasses, so you couldn't really see you could see his eyes through the glasses, but not very, very much. And his hands were swollen, like water retention on his hand. So it was very, very painful to see him like that. You know, it just like, oh. So it was like, we felt that pain, which he didn't seem to be experiencing, or it wasn't stopping him, it wasn't getting in his way of preaching, we hear that even when he was lying here on his last few days, he was still dictating, he was still doing those final purports in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So it didn't stop him from engaging wholeheartedly in Krishna's service. He wasn't letting the body stand in the way of that. But for us, it was so painful to him and shocking to see him in that way. So he stayed a few days, about 5 days, I think, or maybe up to a week. And I think while he was there, he even had a little trip to the hospital. But again, we didn't get to see Srila Prabhupada very much on that occasion. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada wasn't able to walk unaided either at that time. So one devotee, he transformed a chair. He made it into a palanquin, so like a little armchair with little arms on it, and then he put some wooden rungs on and made it into a palanquin. So when Srila Prabhupada came down into the temple room, they would bring him down on this palanquin. So some of you may remember Rama Devi. I think Anuradha would remember Rama Devi. Anybody else remember Rama Devi? She was in Mayapur. She left the body, not that long ago. She was a very young girl when she joined, about 14 when she joined the temple. When she first met devotees anyway, and I think she had to run away from home to join, you know. But she was quite an exceptional personality. So she was from Scotland, joined in Edinburgh, but came down to live at the manor. She was living in the manor she lived at Soho Street for a while, the manor for a while. Very excellent seamstress, wonderful seamstress. And so she made a cover for this chair, the fitted cover for this chair for Srila Prabhupada's palanquin. And myself, as part of the Ladies Sankirtan party, we went out early in the morning before Mangalarti, picking flowers, because again there wasn't lots of money around at that time. We got picking flowers where we weren't supposed to pick flowers. There was a nursery just near our temple, adjacent to the temple. So we hopped over the fence, picked all the best blooms we could find, bit naughty, but we did it for Prabhupada. You don't have to do that now. We can get some beautiful garlands now, can't we? But at that time we didn't have. So we went and picked flowers, and then those flowers we used to make garlands and also decorate his chair. So I always feel like I had some service that I did for Prabhupada, physical service like that. I also got to wash his bed sheets, so that was another little bit of service I did on that second trip when he was very ill. He wasn't eating. He was maybe drinking some grape juice. He wasn't having lots of darshans with people. His original plan was that he was going to go on to America after that trip, but it became obvious that no, he had to go back to India. So somehow or other he came to UK. Jaitirtha Maharaj was in charge. Jaitirtha Prabhu Grihastha at that time was in charge of the temple, and done a really good job in bringing the temple up and bringing it up to a nice standard. And Srila Prabhupada was very pleased with him, and he said to him, I've come to take shelter of your tirtha. This is Jaitirtha. And that devotee from Africa, what's his name? Bhakti-Tirtha Swami. He was there. Gyan Sharma, I think his name was. He was there at the time, and Srila Prabhupada rubbed his head. Like he was just like a little boy. Srila Prabhupada just ruffled his hair on his head. He must have had a bit of hair then, not fully shaved. And he knew what Bhakti-Tirtha Maharaj, what wonderful things he was going to achieve. And Tribhuvanath, some of you may have heard of Tribhuvanath, maybe not so much here, but he's very well known in England, in the English yatra, in the UK yatra. Irish boy who, very sincere devotee of Srila Prabhupada, and he started the festival program, and again Srila Prabhupada was very fond of him and sort of singled him out, and he went on to do lots of wonderful things. He also has left his body now. Ramadevi also left her body now, so we're coming to that stage now, aren't we? All the older devotees. So Srila Prabhupada then went back to Vrindavan, because this is where he left his body. So Srila Prabhupada showed a perfect example how to live your life. He met his spiritual master when he was a young man. He was convinced that this was my spiritual master when he first met him. He took the teachings and the instruction of his spiritual master to heart. We know that I had the good fortune this year, in February I went to Calcutta, and I went to Altadanga Road, where is the place that's been very, very nicely renovated by the devotees, by some devotees there. They've worked really hard to acquire that property, because it was in a bad state of repair. It was falling down. It was like, practically gone. But somehow or other they acquired the property and they renovated it very nicely. It's very much in the keeping of the times there. Again, if you get the chance to go to Mayapur, stop in Calcutta, go and see Altadanga Road. They've done it out so nicely. You can again feel that presence very strongly. The rooftop is where Srila Prabhupada met. You all know this story, right? Where Srila Prabhupada met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, and then they had that exchange, and he told, you are an educated young man, I want you to preach this message to the West. And Srila Prabhupada took that to heart. 2 or 3 times over the course of years, he echoed that message again. And so Prabhupada knew that this is what he wanted him to do. And Srila Prabhupada, he always kept that in his heart. And that is what drove him at 69 years old to leave, the comfort of Vrindavan. He could have stayed here quite easily and pure devotee, gone back to Godhead. But no, he had a message of his spiritual master to bring out these teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So at that age he travelled to the West. I lost my track again. So Srila Prabhupada came back to Vrindavan, and then, so Srila Prabhupada gave a perfect example. That's what I was saying, isn't it? It was perfect. So he took the message of his spiritual master to heart. Then he was a young man, he'd just finished college, and he had a wife, he had a response, his parents wanted him to get married, and so on and so forth. So he got married, and then he had kids, and he brought up his family, he had a business, he had a pharmaceutical business, so he did his duty. It's not that he then became a sannyasi straight off, no, he did his duties, and when the time was right, he went and took Vanaprast, and then after a little while took sannyas, and then still a dream. He had a few dreams back from Bhaktisiddhanta had told him you should take sannyas. He'd taken Vanaprast, was living in Radha Damodar temple in those rooms that we saw. You've been to the rooms? Have you seen? Radha Damodar? Have you been there? Yeah?
Yes.
I just wonder if this lady... Yeah.
So sorry. Yes, I think we did go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, it's good then. So he took, so then he took sannyas. He had dreams from his spiritual master, take sannyas, and he always kept that burning. And then he'd go out, when he was living here, then he would be preparing his books, and when he'd got 3 volumes of the Srimad Bhagavatam ready, so right now's the time. In 1953, he tried to start a centre in Jhansi, League of Devotees, that's right. And very much what we're following in Krishna consciousness now, he was presenting it to the people there. And he had a little following, but it didn't quite take off. He had difficulties anyway. So I think the lesson here, the message here for us is that even when difficulties come, don't give up. And even if we're not able, because of responsibilities or duties that we have to perform, even if we're not able to fully take up to the process of Krishna consciousness or devote ourselves full time to preaching work or whatever, just keep that message in your heart and don't give up. It took Srila Prabhupada several years before he actually, 69, 70 years old, when he's coming and starting on his big adventure, really doing that, fulfilling his spiritual master's desire at that time. Hare Krishna. Okay, right. Srila Prabhupada was a perfect example. So he bided his time, but he never took that, he never let go of that desire from his spiritual master. So it was always a perfect, so he did his family life, he looked after his children, and even when he took Vanaprast, he made sure that his family was looked after. He got a cousin brother or somebody that took care, make sure the family was okay and cared for. And then he's travelling and preaching. And in the early days when he's preaching, just like those 6 devotees who came from America, some of the early devotees who came from America, he sent them to UK. What an empowerment. They were new devotees. They'd hardly been in the movement for a short while, and he sent them to another country to open a centre, So he empowered his devotees. He very much empowered his devotees. And if we take Srila Prabhupada's message seriously, we also can be empowered by Srila Prabhupada. We can see now, when I look around and I see how ISKCON has grown across the world, it's actually growing very fast, very rapidly now. It did go through a period of quiet time, but now it's you can't stop it. It's like wildfire growing around the world. And it's very encouraging for me to see that. So many people are coming forward to taking up the process of Krishna consciousness, not necessarily giving up their homes and families and work, but engaging all their family in Krishna consciousness. So I'm living in a place called Leicester in UK, which is about 100 miles from London, about 100 miles north of London, in the Midlands. And we have a very thriving community there. We have we have a temple, we have 2 schools, but most of the devotees are working people, family people, but have now taken up the process, taken initiation, and taking responsibility in whatever way they can to help serve Srila Prabhupada's mission. And I think that's very important, because we all have responsibilities and duties to do. Yeah. So it's not, when we joined, Anuradha and myself, we met the other day we were chatting and sharing stories. It was really nice to do that, spending time with you. But it was very different in those days. It was a different mood, and I think now it's very much about grihas. And I take my hat off to the grihastas that are working many of them, husband and wife, are working full time, got families, chant 16 rounds and come and do temple service. I mean, that's great. It's wonderful. So I see that very much in Leicester, where I'm part of that community. And I do feel very blessed to be part of a community as well. So, I haven't got a lot of time now. So what else? Oh yeah, so we've got 2 schools in Leicester. So this temple in Leicester has been going for many years. I'm originally from Leicester, that's my hometown, but I went travelling, and then I met the devotees, then I lived in London for about 3 or 4 years at the manor, trained up at the manor, back to Vedanta manor. And then myself and my husband went to Malaysia to do preaching. I'll talk about that in a minute. Then after that, when we came back to England, we went back to Leicester, and we sort of settled down in Leicester. And at that time, we took a kind of step back from the front line. We've been in the front line of Krishna consciousness for a good number of years. This is in the 80s. This is after Srila Prabhupada left his body in 77. Then the 80s was a bit of a turmoil year for Krishna consciousness. There was a lot of difficulties. People didn't quite know what to do and what not to do, and a lot of devotees had difficulties in that time adjusting. We didn't know. We didn't have any elders to look up to at that time. So the 80s were, a bit of a turmoil years. So towards the end of the 80s, we came back to England, and myself and my husband, we took a step back, and we got jobs, we were working, and we were still involved with the temple, but obviously not as much as we were before. So there was a small temple going on in those days, a small little centre. We used to go to Sunday programs and support the devotees like that. But now we have a big city centre temple. It's an old building, what we call in England is a listed building. That means it's like a heritage building. So there's certain rules and regulations what renovations you do, and it has to be to a certain standard, it has to be under regulations and all that. So that's still undergoing renovation. But we also have 2 schools that are funded by the government. So in England, it started in London. They have these Avanti Trust, and they're a group of devotees who applied to the government that we could have faith schools. So in Leicester, we were one of the first ones to be allowed to have a faith school, which is totally funded by the government. I mean, that's such an achievement, isn't it? So as long as we follow the Ofsted rules and regulations, and we get inspected every now and again to make sure the standards are there. And then we, as ISKCON, we are the faith partner. So we are the ones who have, a bit like the church schools, kind of in the, church schools or the Christian schools. So they are the faith partners there. But I mean, so we have a primary school and a secondary school. So we find that this is attracting many devotees from London and all over who've got families but want to send their children to faith school. So we don't have to pay, the parents don't have to pay for the education, it's free education, just have to pay for the uniforms and, other things as you'd expect. So it's a good community in Leicester.
How many devotees are there in Leicester?
It's growing all the time. From when I first started going, maybe 50 odd devotees, but now there's, hundreds really. I would say initiated devotees, there's probably about 100, which is pretty good. And they're very strong devotees and very cooperative, because we have to cooperate together, we have to work together. We're all different, none of us are perfect, we've all got idiosyncrasies and little ways that, it'd be easy to fall out, let's face it. But we have to see the common link and work together, and we have to develop those qualities as we see in Bhagavad-Gita that Krishna talks about, be equipoised, be tolerant, be forgiving, treat everyone with respect, be equal in honour and dishonour, fame and infamy. Such a devotee, Krishna says, is very dear to me. Yeah? So these are the qualities that we need to develop in order to work together cooperatively, to help one another and ultimately help Srila Prabhupada and his dedicated disciples to bring this message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu out to the world, because this is actually the panacea for all ills. This is what will save the world. I think when we joined the movement back in those days, this is what we were revolutionaries, and we thought we could see that this world was in a mess and not going in the right direction. And when we met Srila Prabhupada and we heard Srila Prabhupada's message, we thought, this is what can save the world. Isn't it like that? And it's a fact, and that's still a fact today. And by flooding the world with these transcendental literatures, which is what is happening now, by opening temples around the world, which is what is happening now, by opening farming communities, which show a positive, alternative way to live our life. Ahimsa farms. I mean, we talk about goshalas here, but in the West they have like Ahimsa farm. We also have an Ahimsa farm just on the outskirts, half an hour from Leicester. So things are growing in development. Srila Prabhupada actually wanted us to have farming communities. He wanted devotees to live on those farming communities. He wanted us to grow our own, not only grow our own food, to make our own clothes, to grow our own crops, to make clothes. And Srila Prabhupada said that 50% of my work is yet to be done, Varnashram. So there's still a good opportunity for all of us to take the mission of Srila Prabhupada. How many of you here are initiated? Can you just put your hand up, all the initiated devotees? Yeah? So we have a duty then to help those who are seeking initiation, aspiring for initiation, to help those, encourage those, and to help others to take some aspect of Krishna consciousness into their life. Just start somewhere. Srila Prabhupada said it's a bit like an infectious disease. Once you start, once you get infected with it, you can't help it. It will happen. So encourage people to chant, encourage people to offer their food, encourage people to... In Leicester they had this very nice Damodar Ashtakam. They were going out to people's houses where, new people, invite your friends and family, come do the Damodar Ashtakam. And so many new people are coming forward And once they read and study these books, they will understand the importance of this mission and making the importance of this human form of life. Okay, so we're coming up to an end, but I haven't talked at all about what I think myself and my husband did in the best years of our life in Krishna consciousness. We got the good fortune of going back to Malaysia. As I said, we visited Malaysia, no temples there. Then, I don't know if any of you had class this morning, Prabhu Vishnu gave class this morning. Yeah. So he was the devotee actually, coincidentally, that came to myself and my husband and said, well, my husband was a Malaysian, South Indian by birth, but brought up in Malaysia, and then had travelled to the West, become quite westernized, but then we kind of joined together. So Prabhu Vishnu came to see me and my husband and said, look, we want to open a centre in Malaysia. You've got a Malaysian passport. How about it? Do you fancy, how about going there to do it? Because Prabhu Vishnu was preaching, although he was from Ireland, UK devotee, he didn't stay much in UK. He was always in the Nepal, Bangladesh, Far East. He was a preacher, a pioneer preacher like that. So he came to us and asked us, so my husband and myself, we were quite excited. Yeah, we can do something for Prabhupada. Yes, we wanted to do it. But our temple president, he wasn't keen at the time. He said, yeah, they're two new devotees. They've not been here long. I think we were about two and a half years in the temple. No, I don't think it'll be good. But Prabhu Vishnu didn't give up. And actually he came to Vrindavan and he was thinking about opening this centre in Malaysia. And he'd opened quite a few centres around the world. And he came to the Samadhi and he was praying and, I really want to open this centre in Malaysia. And then suddenly the Pujari came and gave him a garland. So he saw that as a sign from Srila Prabhupada that, yeah, he wants this to happen. He took that as a message, and when he came back to England after that, he told us about it. So we were even more fired up. And eventually Jayatirtha Maharaj, he agreed for us to go. So we went off to Malaysia, and we started a centre there. And I'm very pleased to say that now things are going very well there. We stayed about 5 or 6 years we were there. So we registered the society. We had a small centre to begin with. And then all we did was follow the process that we'd heard about, what we'd learnt, what we'd been trained up in the temple. So we'd have our own little morning programme, we'd do our chanting in our small little terraced house. Had some pictures up. Then we'd have a Sunday programme. And we'd go out in the week with a few books, door to door, and a little card, and invite people to come to the Sunday programme. People started coming, and hey presto, people started joining, started chanting, and then wanting to join. And so from a small beginning like that, we saw the movement open up in Malaysia. So we had a small house, then we moved to a bigger place, then we moved to another place, more devotees joined, Sankirtan parties, and then we travel around the country, have centres here, there, little pockets of devotees here, there and everywhere. And now I'm very happy to say that they've got well-established temples there, and they have a purpose-built temple just outside Penang on the mainland there. And they have a farm, they've got cows, so everything's going on really nicely. Hare Krishna. So thank you very much for...
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
I wondered how you got initiation from Srila Prabhupada. You said he was very ill when he came second time.
Second time.
1977.
Yeah.
But you got initiation at that time?
Well, I got initiation by letter, as many devotees did.
He already was in Vrindavan. He came back to Vrindavan.
He was, quite sure where he was at the time. But 76 we got initiated. So he came in 76, so we'd already seen Prabhupada. He'd been on that whirlwind tour. And then you didn't have to wait a long time for initiation in those days. So we were eager, we were following, we were keen. So the devotees put us down, put our names down, sent it to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada sent our names back. So I didn't get to be in his presence and get handed the beads. And you will find that many of the devotees, it's like that.
And you said this to me that your name is Janaki, but you are not so attached to Lord Ram, and because Janaki is the father of Sita Rani.
Yeah.
But your husband was Radha Krishna.
My husband's name was Radha Krishna. So
from the birth.
From birth, but although he was born in a Hindu family, he'd kind of rejected. Because his family weren't really following much, just traditional. And it's only when he met Srila Prabhupada that he became serious about his own culture. Yeah.
What was his name?
Ram Charan Das.
Oh, so Radha Krishna to Ram Charan.
Yeah, so Ra, and Ja.
Oh, okay.
So Prabhupada gave us those names. Because I remember at the time thinking, he'd got the name Radha Krishna, why would he change it to that? But I did get the opportunity I was part of a drama troupe as well when we were in London. Not the Bhakti-Yoga players, as Mahadevi will have said, but actually before that it was Chaitanya's Instant Theatre. There was a group with Bhumadev, Shripati, Paravida, quite a few others, and myself and my husband, then we sort of got roped into that. And I did get the opportunity to play Sita a couple of times. So I do love the Ramayana. We were talking as well, but I am more attracted to the Vrindavan Leela. Radhasham Sundara, Lalita Vishaka, Krishna Balaram. I'm definitely more attracted to that mood. Of course I love Ramayana too. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Okay.
It was really Krishna's arrangement, because actually I wasn't supposed to be here, but somehow, and whatever you were telling, my Guru Maharaj is right now is in Prabhupada's house, and it's like been a very limited number of times that we have meeting, and His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj.
Oh, okay.
And whatever you are telling, I'm getting all my answers. Whatever that, physically being present before each other is not so important. He's always with us.
Yeah.
So whatever whatever has been going in my mind, he has been here for the last few days, but we have not been able to come across each other or talk to each other.
Yeah.
But I got most of my answers here. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you
So yes, I love to listen to classes by different devotees, So wherever we are in the world, if we can't be in a temple, we can now listen online. So we can get so much, and we often find that our questions will be answered by Krishna through the devotees,
Definitely.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. And your Guru Maharaj is doing wonderful service. I got the chance to go to the Govardhan Eco Village. I was blown away. He's doing what Prabhupada, of course, many devotees are doing what you want, but he's showing an example there to the world of how you can live alternatively and at the same time have that deep devotional aspect. So it's very attractive to lots of different types of people. So I'm very grateful to him for and all the devotees there and all the effort that they've put in there. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. So thank you very much everyone for letting me go on for so long.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Before associating with devotees, you were earlier knowing that spiritual master, when you started with spiritual master, you were searching for a spiritual master. So you were knowing that I should go to a spiritual master.
Well, I'd read quite a few books. I was a seeker, So I looked into religion, a bit disappointed, looked into yoga, different people were around at that time. There were different books, autobiography of a yogi. We all read those books, didn't we? But they were mostly like Mayavad philosophy. So they were a little bit sort of.
But how did you know you needed a spiritual mind?
Well, from the books that I'd read. So I'd read different books. There was a lot of spiritual seekers around at that time, in the late 60s and early 70s. Yeah, it was a gradual thing for me. Yeah, Hare Krishna.
And also in Bhagavad-Gita, you should find the spiritual master, otherwise there is no way to grow spiritually.
I hadn't read Bhagavad-Gita. I hadn't come across Bhagavad-Gita before.
Yeah.
So that I hadn't read that. I maybe had heard the name Bhagavad-Gita, but I'd never read it.
When you met devotees on the ship on the way to Malaysia, they didn't give you Bhagavad-Gita.
I think we got, I don't think I had Bhagavad-Gita then. I think we had Nectar of Devotion, which was a bit beyond us really. And Krishna book.
Okay, good.
Krishna book. And Back to Godhead magazine.
Okay.
Which, and maybe another couple books, but I remember the Krishna book more than anything. Hare Krishna. I'd love, if we had a bit more time, it'd be nice to find out a bit more about your stories. This is a Vaishnavi Sanga and I've taken over the whole thing here, but...
That's the idea.
Okay.
Very encouraging. Whatever you told us.
I prayed before I came because I'm really not, in those days again, I don't know whether you're still recording or not.
Okay.
Is he? In those days, the ladies were, it's okay, the ladies were very much in the background. I mean, we still are a bit here as well, but even more so in those days. And we weren't encouraged to give class. But don't let that stop you, ladies, coming forward. There was a very nice, I don't know what the lady's name was last night who gave class. It wasn't you, was it? No. She looked a bit like you.
Where? In the
She knows the Bhagavad-Gita.
She knows all the slokas.
She was like churning them out, like boom, 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 boom. She really knows her stuff. So, whatever we can do, whatever talents we've got, let's use them in Krishna's service. You might be good at making flower garlands. Yeah, you can perfect your life making flower garlands. You might be good at cooking. Think about what nice dishes you can make to offer your spiritual master, or you can offer Krishna. You could become perfect in that, And then, always help the Sankirtan movement. Always encourage those devotees who go out on the front line. But if you can't do that yourself, you can still do that. Right? Cooking some nice prasad for the devotees when they come back, or helping them. Because we have this December marathon now, don't we?
Wow.
So you get the front line devotees going out distributing books, but they also need, encouragement from the devotees who can't go out. So everybody has a part to play, and we can all play a part in that. But if you can speak or you can sing nicely, go ahead and do that. I find that in Leicester we don't have that restriction so much. There's a lot of ladies that are serve on the altar. In fact, it's mainly the family people, the married people with kids and a job that come early morning, 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the morning, wake up the deities, do the dressing and everything, then go off to work. I don't know, they're doing good, So by working cooperatively together. Anyway, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kamala.
Thank you for your association.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for encouragement.